Hey everyone, it's Melody Snowflake and welcome to part 3 of my analysis series of Lapis Lazuli. This is a series where I talk about Lapis, go in depth in her character and motivation, and address the misunderstandings some people seem to have of her. The last time we left off, we talked about Alone at Sea, on how Lapis missed the sensation of being fused as malachite, but then realized that it was fueled by anger and that wasn't healthy. So when Jasper said that they should fuse again, she refused, knowing that it wasn't the right thing to do, and that she didn't want that for herself. Now let's carry on to Beta, Gem Harvest, the new crystal gems, and Room for Ruby. This is going to be quite a short episode because there are not really much to cover in these, but I'd like to cover them anyway just in case we want to talk about some little nitpicks people seem to have. Also, if you haven't watched Steam Universe yet, I highly recommend you watch that before you watch this video, as, spoiler alert, there will be a lot of spoilers. Also, if you don't agree with my opinions, that's okay, but please be nice in the comment sections and try not to start an all-out gem war. Alright, now with all of that out of the way, let's get started. Beta. Oh goodness, Beta is one of my favorite episodes. We see Lapis and Peridot together in the barn living happily for the first time. As I talked about in my previous video, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend you check that one out first. The link is in the description. As we saw in the previous video that I made, in Hit the Diamond, Peridot earned Lapis' trust and respect by standing up for her friends. This paves the building blocks for them to become good friends, and in Beta we see the result of that. They made meat morphs, which by the way I think Lapis named. They were all just decorating the barn and having a good time and watching Campaigning Hearts together. Everything was going great. It was only when Amethyst in that episode mentioned Jasper's name, which probably triggered a bit of negative memories in Lapis, because she had recently had an encounter with Jasper, in Alone at Sea, and even though she had gotten over the whole missing Jasper thing, it was probably still a traumatizing experience for her. So Lapis just kind of, got affected by that, but she tried to heal herself by watching Campaigning Hearts, and it seemed to help. So that's basically all we can say about Lapis in Beta. She seems to be coping well, she's starting to learn to like the earth, and she seems to be enjoying Peridot's company. And also, can we just appreciate how sweet Peridot is here for taking Lapis' sensitivities into consideration by telling Amethyst not to say Jasper's name so loosely around here? That's just so sweet. And Lapis, she was clearly affected by it, but she was dealing with it in her own way and watching Campaigning Hearts, and that shows like she was trying to move on and trying to move past it and get stronger and get over it. That's good. In Gem Harvest, we see that Lapis and Peridot have become closer than ever. They even started a farm, and they made Pumpkin. Well, Steven made Pumpkin, and they adopted Pumpkin as their little pet. And that's just really cute. But then Andy came along, and being afraid that he was going to take their home away, Lapis and Peridot got on the defensive. And then later on, we see Lapis enjoying herself at the dinner table with the others. She could even joke about the mirror that she was imprisoned in. I doubt she was over this, as we see in later episodes she was still traumatized by the experience, but I think she was getting better because she could still laugh a little bit about it, and she seemed to be able to let loose around Peridot and Steven and just, joke around about it a little. Also, we see her getting along with the other crystal gems in this episode, meaning that sometime behind the scenes she had warmed up to them a little bit, at the very least. Later in the episode, Lapis helps Steven to go after Andy after he leaves, and when Steven told her to throw him onto the plane, she just did so. I think she basically just trusted Steven, I think she just trusted he knew what he was doing. And who knows, he may have told her about his ability to fly. Anyway, this is basically Gem Harvest. Now let's move on to the new crystal gems. Okay, there are people picking on one line Lapis says in the new crystal gems. When Connie first walks in on them and introduces herself and asks Lapis if she remembered her, and that, told Lapis that she almost drowned her, Lapis said, "I almost drowned a lot of people." And there are people who interpret that as Lapis not caring that she almost drowned lots of people, but I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, going back to Alone at Sea, there is one part that people seem to overlook because everyone just focuses on the confrontation between Lapis and Jasper. But there is one line when she said, "I'm terrible. I did horrible things. I broke your dad's leg. I stole Earth's ocean. Gone! Tell me I'm wrong!" This is the part where she is showing guilt and regret for everything she did in Ocean Gem. Like I said in my very first video, she didn't realize it would affect so many lives. In this episode, Alone at Sea, we see her feeling bad for all of the things she did in Ocean Gem, and that obviously included almost drowning people, including Connie. But in that case, why did she say it like it was no big deal in the new Crystal Gems? Well, simple. She just didn't remember who Connie was. She just didn't recognize her. Remember how in the beginning of Alone at Sea, when she first saw Greg, she didn't recognize him either, even though she later said, "I broke your dad's leg"? She knew what she had done, but she just didn't know to whom. She didn't remember who they were. She didn't recognize them. So she just said that because she just didn't remember Connie. It's really as simple as that. It's not that she didn't care. As we saw in Alone at Sea, she did care. She felt bad about it. She even expressed it. But when she said that in the new Crystal Gem, she just basically said she basically meant she couldn't remember Connie. That's all, really. It's nothing too big, as people seem to think. And finally, the last episode we're going to talk about in this one is Room for Ruby. There are some people who might be bothered by how Lapis couldn't trust Navy at first, even though she was proven right at the end of the episode. But let me try to explain. The last time Lapis saw Navy, they were in a battle. Amethyst were pretending to be Jasper and all that stuff, you know? And they were enemies. And Lapis just couldn't believe that an enemy would just out of nowhere want to become an ally. To tell you the truth, when I first saw this episode, Navy kind of put me off too. I was like, what? I was confused because I didn't trust her, but she seemed so genuine, but it just didn't make sense. And that's probably how Lapis felt. She couldn't trust Navy, but she just seemed so genuine, and it just didn't make any sense to her. She tried telling Navy to take it easy, but Navy just seemed to be so adaptable, and it just seemed so real, and yet it didn't make any sense, and she just couldn't trust her. So eventually she just, couldn't take it. The more okay Navy seemed, the more something felt off, the more Lapis couldn't trust her. So finally Lapis just decided to excuse herself from the situation and say something along the lines of, "Oh, come on!" And then when Peridot and Steven went after her, she explained that it was almost like there was no problem. It was almost like Navy was okay with them, and that just didn't make any sense at all to Lapis, because from her experience, it takes a while to adjust to Earth. It makes no sense that Navy would just be okay like that. And then she realized that maybe, she started thinking, what if maybe she was overthinking it? What if, it really was okay? She still didn't trust Navy, but when she decided to give Navy the benefit of the doubt, she just decided to just go with it. She didn't trust her, but she still decided to just go with it anyway. And when she finally decided to give Navy a chance, Navy just backstabbed her and threw them off the ship and everything. And that's when Lapis was like, "I knew it! I was right! No one could be that well adjusted." This is when Lapis realized that, she was right all along. And she was laughing, and that it probably felt good to be right, for once. So that's basically what happened in this episode. To recap, Lapis could not trust Navy at first because it just seemed a bit odd that a villain would out of nowhere want to be an ally. The more okay Navy seemed, the more something felt off, and the more Lapis just couldn't make sense of it all. When she finally excused herself from the situation and talked about what she was feeling with Peridot and Steven, she started thinking, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe it really is okay and it's just different for her. She couldn't understand it. She still couldn't trust her, but she decided to just maybe go with it anyway. But just as she was starting to give Navy a little bit of trust, a bit of the benefit of the doubt, Navy backstabs her, and she realized that she was right all along, and she was happy about that. Because, she was right. I'm happy for her for being right, because I honestly just couldn't trust Navy at all at first either. And just around the time when I started giving her the benefit of the doubt was also around the time Lapis started doing that. And I also felt equally as backstabbed when Navy did that. But I can't deny I didn't see it coming. Just like Lapis, I didn't fully trust her. Not at all. So that's all we're going to cover in this episode. I've decided not to include the next few Lapis episodes in it because I think it deserves a part 4 of its own, because there will be a lot to cover from Raising the Barn to Change Your Mind, so I'll talk to you about those then. Meanwhile, thank you so much for watching. If you don't agree with my opinions, please be nice about it in the comments section. If you start a chaos in there, I'm sorry, I might have to delete your comment, so yeah. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in part 4. Bye!